Welcome to the grand year of 2021. Let's hope it's better than last year's shit show. I'm Advent Nebula.
I'm Cruellica Kain. And at the time of this recording, I already want a refund.
Better luck 2022.
Yeah, let's just put all of our chips in that basket. Alrighty, well, we wanted to actually do a fun video this week because we were just watching a bunch of Disney movies because I don't know what it is about Disney animated films.
They hit those right niches.
They really do, and I'm including Pixar in this because obviously Pixar was one of those will they, won't they companies for many years.
Until they actually ended up in there, what was it, around the time of The Incredibles when they...
Mm-hmm. Well, they used to be originally owned by Disney, and then they left, and then they came back. It's a very strange drama. But nevertheless, Disney for most, if not all of us, has been around for the entirety of our childhoods.
It was our babysitter.
Oh, it was our babysitter. It was one of our best friends. I don't know how many movies I grew up on. And the really cool thing about Disney is they made so many classics that related, even if not in a realistic manner, to things that you like. And you can actually identify who you are as an adult by some of the things that you liked in Disney movies.
And if you still enjoy the same Disney movies, because the formula, it's updated for the modern audience, but it still holds those same core truths that have been there since Snow White.
Yes. And for anyone who doesn't know, and it'd be a very big rarity if you did not, Disney movies have been around since 1937. In 1931, Walt Disney did Steamboat Mickey, which was the first animated feature ever to be made in the United States. Obviously, Japan had made some animated features.
Germany.
Germany.
And Russia.
So they were very simplistic and very, very short. There were animation type styles well before Disney, but Disney was the one who popularized it with Steamboat Mickey. And Steamboat Mickey, if I remember correctly, was only like about 3 to 5 minutes in length.
Something like that. It's a little under 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've watched it so many times, so I never actually timed it. But then the first full-length movie that came out was Snow White. And I think what was so miraculous about that in 1937 is you still really had very few things that were in color.
Yeah.
And something so animated.
And even if you look at Gondola with the Wind, which is one of the first full-color movies,
yes.
That was 1939, and that was a rarity then.
Oh, absolutely. Same thing with Wizard of Oz. And I think the reason why Disney movies hold up so much more than any other long-standing company is really because they hit all of the points, like you said, with morals, with comedy, with intrigue, with storytelling, but they also hit most of the pivotal points within our culture.
Yeah. And a lot of the movies, even during Disney's down experimental period in the 70s to the early 80s, when they were doing more live action than they were doing animated, you even see there a cultural zeitgeist.
Absolutely. And it really felt like there was a portion of time, which truly, there was really a portion of time where Disney wasn't doing a lot of movies because the popularity went down significantly because around that cultural zeitgeist, people didn't care about animation so much.
And it was basically the period of the oil crisis through the middle of the Reagan era.
Mm-hmm. And then you had like almost a neo-renaissance when it came to Disney films because then you started getting like...
And it's really Aladdin and the Lion King that started that renaissance.
Well, it started a little bit before with The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, but it was Aladdin and then The Lion King a few years later that really hit it on the nail for so many people. And one of the last true Disney animated movies we have, and the reason I say true animated is because obviously with Pixar being incorporated in it, that is more full CGI. But with the last anime movies, that was Princess and the Frog.
Yeah, The Princess and the Frog was the last cel-shaded movie they did before they moved on to doing computer work.
Absolutely, because if you think about the Frozen movies, or even with Wreck-It Ralph, those are more...
Big Hero 6.
Exactly, those are more computer-generated. With Princess and the Frog, that was a perfect element of cultural zeitgeist as well.
Yeah, and it was at the same time. It's like with Japan and Madhouse, they did Redline around the same time, so you had the two countries, America and the U.S., at the same time.
America and Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say America and the U.S. are the same.
Both bowing out, but both hitting really on the mark with the zeitgeist, with Japan and Redline with the love of just absurd humor, and then the U.S. with a lot of the politics that were kind of going on at the time by bringing in that southern storytelling of Louisiana.
I really...
Because that was around Hurricane Katrina, ironically enough.
And it also was, I think, so exciting for so many people, because as much as we all love Disney, there wasn't much diversity with our princesses.
Yeah.
We had Jasmine, we had Mulan, but we didn't have anyone who represented for the African American or Afrikaani
And
people.
going in with the French quarter with that as well, which is a real minority subset.
Oh, yes. So it was grand storytelling, and it once again reminds people of why you become a Disney kid, because no matter where you start with Disney films, you always connect to something somewhere that you love. One of my favorite Disney films of all time for animated that I can watch 1,000,000 times and never get old with is actually Sleeping Beauty. The plot, yes, is very generic, because if you know the main story, you already know really what Sleeping Beauty is about. It's the introduction of Maleficent that steals it for me, and not Angelina Jolie's Maleficent, but the real Maleficent, who was actually evil.
For me, I like just an upbeat, fun movie, which is probably why my two top Disney movies, one I grew up with Aladdin, but then just several years ago, and I got the same kind of feeling with it, and I think it's because there are so many adult jokes in it with Zootopia.
Oh, yes, Zootopia is great.
I mean, they just kicked it out of the park with the adult humor in that's going to go over the kids' heads for the adults, but it works so well.
Oh, absolutely. Like, another of my favorites that I've always enjoyed is, admittedly, Little Mermaid. And I think what helps for me is not just the storytelling, but I love the songs aspect of Disney movies. If you can't have a catchy song, like we watched Aladdin a week ago, and I thought kaiju was going to kill me because I knew word for word every single song of the movie.
Yeah, and that's one thing that Disney movies have truly captured, is that getting that right songwriter, whether it be Phil Collins or Elton John or with what
Or Gary Newman.
What they've done in the past, or now with what they're doing. They're getting Tony Award-winning songwriters for musicals to write these songs now, and it may be just one or it might be a collaboration, but it works so well.
And I know there's a lot of people out there who find an element of frustration with Disney movies, either the animated or the live action, that have the musical element, because some people feel like the musical takes you out of the vicarious nature of it. But with Disney, they actually succeed in roping you further in, because Mulan, which I know is not always one of everyone's favorites Disney movies, the song I'll Make a Man Out of You, everyone who knows the movie knows that song and does it. Similarly with Colors of the Wind by Pocahontas.
Yeah, that one's one that everybody knows. And then with, like, Lion King, every song Elton John wrote for that movie, as soon as it comes on, you're just hooked into it because they have every song written to tell the story.
And that's how it needs to be. Like, in Princess and the Frog, I can't remember the name of the song, but the villain song in that movie was fantastic. And I also think it's because you have the artist also doing it, and it was David Keith who was, and he's notorious for his horror movie aspects, so it worked perfectly.
Yeah, playing a voodoo priest in that movie just worked way too well for the type of voice he uses.
Oh, absolutely. And I think another thing that's so great about Disney movies is no matter what frame of mind you're in, be it that you're already upbeat and you're just looking for something fun, or if you're a little depressed or down and you just want something to make you feel happy, that's the one thing Disney movies do. And I include Up in that, because the first 10 minutes of Up, I'm crying the entire time. The moment they get to the story, you're just so happy.
Yeah, for me, with the Pixar, it's just the nostalgia factor of the first few Toy Story movies.
It does remind you of what you were like as a kid.
Yeah.
Because you gave life to all of your toys, and now you see the toys having life, you're just so happy.
It does seem to be something that you do, and then looking at this toy room we're in right now, just imagine if that was the case.
Oh, God, they'd probably think he's insane.
Yeah.
Especially with the way he positions some of them, so they look...
Dead inside?
Yes. That's a great way of putting it. But the reason why we wanted to talk about Disney is really just because we need fun after 2020.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then one thing that I can always go back to, and it's even with some of the live action ones, Tron is a movie I can pop in and watch just because, despite the fact that it's dated on the original one for its special effects, the storytelling and the acting in that movie still hold up today.
Well, it's the same thing for me with Mary Poppins. Anytime I need something, I'll just watch Mary Poppins. Or, even some of the more modern ones with like The Rock and stuff. Those were always fun. Yes, they're cheesy, like the Halloween Town movies are so cheesy for Disney, but they're so much fun.
And Disney's captured it with their TV specials, and even when their animated series that spun off of some of their hits in the 90s, it's like it worked.
And that's what I think is the reason that Disney as an organization does so well. Because no matter if you love them or hate them, they know entertainment. And being that they really started with the animated focus initially, because that's really what Walt Disney wanted, they really created an empire that is made for families. And yes, we have the more action-oriented things, and now that they have Fox properties, they're going into more of the adult items that they used to have.
Yeah, which we're going to start seeing with their new stuff with Star Wars and with the Alien and Predator stuff now that they said they are committed to having their own line on that.
Absolutely.
And even with that Fox acquisition, just getting the announcement with Marvel, they are now open for Blade and Deadpool to be R-rated films.
Which is something that's an extreme rarity for Disney. And I think being that Disney's wholesome nature of being child-friendly and family-oriented, I don't see that's going to diminish or go away now that Disney is taking on the more mature.
Yeah, I think the platform of Disney Plus has opened a whole new world for them in a way.
Absolutely. And so what makes a Disney kid is the most important question of the day, because it's different for everyone.
It literally is what you grew up on, because us that were born in the 80s are going to remember anything like from the Little Mermaid to basically up to the Princess and the Frog is going to be where we're going to have our favorites at for the most part, unless we actually had our parents show us some of the stuff from the 40s and 50s.
And exactly. So we live vicariously through those, and our access to them was much more limited unless you had a VHS player, then later on DVD. And I can honestly say I have rebought many of the Disney properties as many times as they have come out to different editions. Because admittedly, once you're a Disney kid, you're always a Disney kid.
And Disney has got us by the ropes on that.
Absolutely. And I think for modern day Disney kids, for anyone who was born late 90s to...
I'd say about 2012, 13?
Absolutely. Their level of Disney kid is Marvel. While they know the animated classics and they've seen the animated classics, Marvel is their version of Disney.
Yeah, because that's what Disney's, ever since they bought the rights from Paramount for the film rights and then got the acquisition of Marvel itself, they have really taken and projected themselves a whole different direction.
Absolutely. And so I know in future years there will be arguments about what makes Disney Disney, and
there'll basically be 5 divisions.
Mm-hmm. And what makes you a Disney kid or what makes Disney Disney is going to change every day. And there's no right or wrong answer. I think that's one of the benefits about this pop culture icon compared to others. Because if we look at Sony, or we look at Warner Brothers, or Paramount, or anyone else, you ask what's your favorite of any of those companies, it's very divisive.
Very, very divisive. And they may not even have the license for some of those films anymore because some of them have expired because the directors got their rights and then went to a company like Shout or somebody just for the distribution on those because they actually own that property as a director and producer themselves now.
So that's why Disney is admittedly the overlord. At the end of it, Disney, please love us, please sponsor us. No, I'm kidding. But I love Disney, and watching animated movies has definitely helped me remember what I loved about my childhood. And I know not everybody, especially if you're younger for 2020, got to really think of what their childhood was like. Find something that you really enjoy and know that it's always going to be there for you no matter what year it is.
Yeah. And if you're going to go through the classics of Disney, you just got to keep in mind with some of them, it was a sign of the times.
That is very true. If there's things that could potentially offend, you have to remember what generation it is. I'm not saying that's neither good nor bad, but the world was very different, no matter what generation you're from. And that's actually a really good topic for us to touch upon for one of our future podcasts, is talking about how pop culture really does differ between generations and how we kind of have to respect it, but be aware of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with Warner Brothers and Looney Tunes.
Mm-hmm.
Which we will more than likely talk about something on our upcoming podcast as well. Some of our classic cartoons growing up.
Yes, that is definitely going to be very polarizing. But on that note, have a great day, everyone. Bye.
See ya.